So I'm pretty excited that I get to do my final project to something that I would probably just be watching or listening to in my own free time. So I'm excited for that.
What class is that for?
It's 21M 714, I think, which is contemporary American theater.
Ooh.
So our topic for like this entire semester is like immigrant plays and stuff like that. So I thought that In the Heights fit that pretty thematically.
Have all of you taken music classes at MIT or?
Yes, actually to an extent. Yeah, to an extent, I think.
Man,
this matter. We have a class together this semester, which is
yeah,
Which one is that?
interactive music systems where you're like kind of like programming music games. So the two of us were in a project together.
I think I had added that on my courseload at one point. I don't know if I will have time to take it, but...
It's a tricky one. I think it's only a spring, just
Right. There's so many classes that are like only spring, only fall. It's very hard to like coordinate all of them. But that one definitely sounds cool.
Do you know Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Yes.
Yes. John was able to do Leash from the Vine. One of his projects for that class.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, you recorded that.
Yes. That was really cool. And then you taught me how to play it too. Yeah.
Any music classes from you?
I was in American popular music last semester, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah. It was a time. Like,
Did you talk about Taylor Swift?
a little bit. I feel like it's pretty slow in general, the class, and I didn't get too much out of it. It was just basically a history class of American popular music, so.
Got
When did it start?
Yeah.
Sorry, was it?
When did it start? What year? Was it like 1880-ish?
I don't know. It was a while back, I think. Definitely before the 1900s, I think. And then it went through like all the regular like rock, pop stuff, and then up until like more contemporary stuff as well.
What does 1800s pop music sound like?
Yeah.
I don't remember. It's been too long.
I mean, like Tin Pan Alley was all like Bird Nickel, Luke Cage, and all that was all 1880s, 90s.
It's interesting that all of you guys are into music academically because you also are extracurricularly into music. And to get into that, good afternoon and welcome to On the Dome, a podcast about how non-expert college-age youth think. And today we actually have a very special set of people because you guys are our first ever on the podcast musical group. Your band name is Misuse of Institute Property, which, excellent name. Guys, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. My name is Garrett Blozen. I was the pianist for the group. I'm a sophomore here at MIT, and I'm also a course 2A6, which is like mechanical engineering. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm John. I'm one vocalist of the band. I'm a sophomore studying 6-2, which is electrical engineering and computer science with a minor in music technology.
I'm Raiden. I'm one of the other vocalists in the group. I am a sophomore. I major in physics, and I'm double majoring in either music or CMS. I'm still not too decided on that yet, but I'm definitely going to be doing one of those.
Fair enough. And finally, I'm Matt. I am the pianist, or not the pianist. I'm the guitarist for the band, and I'm studying CS with some math and music mixed in.
Nice. Are you a pianist in any other parts of your
I'm
life?
originally a pianist, which is why I got confused.
Okay, well, I guess that leads into...
Simply a lie.
I guess that leads in well to my first question, which is, how did you guys get into music generally, the TLDR of it all, before we get into how this band started?
I can pinpoint a pretty specific moment. When I was 7, my grandmother gave me a birthday present. It was an electric Casio keyboard.
Whoa.
And at that point, I didn't really know much about like reading music and stuff like that. But what I would like to do is I would just like hear songs on the radio, like I am the crazy five, da, 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 and I try to play those on the piano and things like that. And I never really got like formally trained in the piano, but I was like, wow, this is fun. I like pressing things and it makes nice sounds. So then, like once we got to like 3rd grade and stuff like that, there were like recorder classes. And then once I got to like 4th grade, 5th grade, that's when we got to do like pretty, like, I don't want to say actual instruments because I feel like I would offend John if I said recorders aren't actual instruments. But then in 4th grade, I started playing saxophone. I remember I named it Saxy. I didn't.
Wow.
It's really. I didn't know "sexy" was a word at that point. So everyone laughed when I told them my saxophone was named Saxy, and I didn't know why. And then Thanksgiving, so about 2 months after I got it, it got stolen.
Rest in peace.
And then I was on the verge of not doing music anymore.
Oh wow.
But then I was like, but then I met someone who was a percussionist, and I really looked up to him. He was a really big mentor for me. So I was like, I might as well just try to do percussion, and then like the rest of that is history. I've been playing drums for about 10 years at this point,
Wow.
and I've done it to some capacity in MIT as well. Last year I was one of the percussionists for the MIT Symphony Orchestra, and then since then I've actually transitioned a little bit more towards vocals. So I'm in the corollaries of MIT, MIT's oldest mixed group a cappella group. There's a whole spiel. I will get into that. And then I also joined the chamber chorus this semester. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
The rest of you?
Yeah, my parents like to say that I started music by like banging on pots and pans in the kitchen from when I was like 4, which is a bit ironic because I don't really do percussion. I was like classically trained in, like piano, and then I picked up viola, and then throughout like middle school and high school, as I'd be like in like choirs and orchestras, I'd also just like pick up other instruments on the side, and so I became like actually like, decent at recorder, which is a real instrument, and I got to play with the school's pep band, which is pretty fun. But my main instrument is viola. I did a bit of that. I was with Raiden in Mitso last year, principal violist. And I also like kept up singing, and both Ray and I are also in the corollaries, as you mentioned earlier.
I guess my parents were also very big proponents of classical music ever since I was a kid, so I kind of started playing piano, I guess, back in like 1st or 2nd grade, like pretty early on. And then eventually I actually picked up playing the cello back in 4th grade, I think, and then I joined like the orchestra then. And ever since then, I've just been taking like private lessons and doing, I guess, like competitions and stuff. And then coming to MIT, I kind of took a more lax approach and just joined the chamber group this past semester for playing cello and piano just for like for fun things, for example, this band. So yeah.
Cool. I mean, so there's an arbitrary line to be drawn between making noise as a young child and making proper music, but I also was a pot and pans aficionado. And my parents got sick of it about, I don't know, a year and a half in, which is, they lasted longer than I would have, and gave me an electronic drum set. So I had headphones, so they did not have to hear it, which was definitely just a strategic choice and not them trying to push music. But yeah, I played drums for a while and then started learning jazz piano. I was off to the races.
Nice.
I find it really interesting that everyone in this band either doesn't play their like original instrument or the instrument that they play the most.
It
And
is
like
Yeah.
Diego,
really
who's
funny.
our bassist, is actually more piano trained than he is bass trained.
Wow.
So we all just kind of do like a flip flop. I guess
Yeah.
Sam
Sam's
Our drummer was
Yeah.
He's main
Mhm.
drummer.
a drummer.
yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I feel like it helps. There's always this thing where like you can always tell when a instrumentalist is a composer or a producer too, because they don't play like they're trying to play an instrument. They play like they're trying to fulfill a part in a band. And this is actually something that's really non-trivial and like really oddly difficult, is like realizing that when you have, I was talking to Garrett about this because like this sucks and this is awful when you're first starting, is like you like when you're playing piano in a band, you think you have all the keys and all the keys would sound wonderful and great. Really you have like 20. Like you out of this you probably have this that will sound good, because anywhere else you're going to step on people's toes. And like I had to figure out like what their vocal ranges were to not play guitar in that range, or else I'm going to step all over them. But I can't move because then I'm going to step over Garrett. But I can't move lower because I'm going to step over Diego. So there's this whole kind of fun thing. But it's interesting because I think it totally does help knowing, like you being a drummer, knowing what the drummer might do
Yes.
next is
Yeah.
such a funny little.
Right.
And I think it's not just like, okay, we pretty much played each other's instruments, so you know what to
Yeah.
look for at that point. It's also everyone was stepping a little bit out of their comfort zone, which means that we were all open to listening to each other and learning. One of my favorite parts of this experience was that there really wasn't any ego. We were working together as a band from the beginning, and we saw it as an experience to try to challenge each other and get better. And I think that it showed in rehearsals, and it definitely showed on stage. And I think that one of the things that a lot of people liked about our performance is that it looked like we were having fun and we were working as a group. So,
Well, as someone in the audience, I can certainly attest to that. So, how did this get started? How did you guys decide that you were going to become a band? how did you decide on things like the name, and how did you end up performing for Springfest? Those are a bunch of different questions. Maybe
So,
we'll start with the first one.
I get a text from Diego maybe 2.5 months ago where it's like, hypothetically speaking, should we try and get a band together for Springfest? And I was like, sure. Like, who have you asked? And he was like, no one. I'm like, cool. So I went to Chris. He was like, would you want to? And I'm like, sure. So, we're like, all right. I think I know a vocalist, which was written.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I know a pianist who is not Garrett. I'm like, all right, cool. So I was going to call Garrett up, but he's like, no, I got someone. I'm like, okay. Yeah, and like we kind of, it was this funny thing where it was like a, like degrees of separation thing, where like I think originally you dragged John in,
Yes.
and then like the pianist couldn't make it, so I dragged Garrett in, and like it was like people didn't even know each other at first, but it was kind of, I mean, it was part of the fun.
Right, yeah.
So we started. Our audition tape was 4 people,
Yes.
and then we just slowly were like, but you know what'd be cool?
Yeah.
If we had another vocalist.
It's
I know a vocalist, John.
Especially because one of our audition songs was "Smoking Out the Window," which,
Right.
if you're familiar with it, there are very much 2 principal vocalists on that.
Yeah.
But I basically had to like flip flop between Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak, and I was like, no, that's we're not doing that in a concert. So I was like, who's the first guy I could think of? My man John. We've been making music since even before we got to MIT, actually.
Yeah.
So in
January 2021.
January 2021. So we both got in early action to MIT, and we were both pretty active on the Discord. I think I was a moderator for the 2025 server at the time, and we, for fun, I was part of like a poem sub channel in the Discord. It was really funny. I was like, you know what if I just made a parody of Santa Claus is Coming to Town based on Swole Tim. Swole Tim the Beaver. And so I just like, just for fun, I just like sent this parody to the Discord, just words. I didn't have any music to it, but like I thought it was pretty self-explanatory. And then John, for some reason, decided to take these words and make like a 5-instrument 1-man band arrangement of it and sent it to the Discord. And after that, I don't know what it was, but I think at that point we were destined to make music together for a long time.
Very fun origin story. How did you decide on Misuse of Institute Property as your band name?
It's funny you say we, because it was not a we. That was Diego saying, oh, by the way, the deadline for naming has passed, and I decided to submit Misuse of Institute Property. And I'm like, cool.
Diego basically sent like 7 different names, and I think I was like, Misuse of Institute Property sounds fun, so I just like liked it in like the group chat, and I think that's how we ended up deciding it finally. I will say the name wasn't decided until very late, but the idea of wearing suits and sunglasses, like before he even pitched what songs we were going to be doing, he told me, when we get up on that stage, we are wearing suits and sunglasses. There isn't really an option there.
I mean, it was good, yeah. How did you decide on the songs? Was it, again, Diego mainly, or?
Yeah, it's pretty much Diego. Like, when he asked me, probably about like 2 weeks after he and Matt had the conversation, he's like, do you know just the 2 of us by any chance? And I was like, I've heard it. I've never performed it before, but I'm somewhat familiar with the song. So he's like, do you think you could learn it in like 2 days? So I learned it in 2 days. And then the first time we got like the band together, like our audition tape, that was literally our first time practicing together. And I think that it's pretty impressive looking back at that. Like, wow, we had known each other. Like, I had never even met like Matt or Sam at that point. We've known each other probably like 20 minutes, and we were able to do something that SEB thought was decent enough to perform in front of hundreds of people. Sufficient enough to perform in front of hundreds of people.
Yeah.
And I think that like at that point the name is just honorary.
Mhm.
Yeah, the name can't really encapsulate what the true experience of like these 6 people
Right, yeah.
together are doing. So
I mean, a little bit of background on me. I am also a musician. I have done classical choir. I did for like 12 years or something. And then I also did classical Hindustani music, so I'm more of a vocalist. But I think that one of the things I miss most about it is just the feeling of like musical camaraderie, I guess. In a choir, you're singing with 100 other people. It's not about you, it's about you and 100 other people. And even in like small group vocalist like performances, it's definitely a lot more about the combined sound than just one person. How do you think that that like influenced how you approached this versus maybe a solo performance?
I think so. When it comes to my vocal training, it definitely is a lot more within a choir setting. Like I started vocals, I think like sophomore year of high school, and pretty much all of my things were within a either a chamber or like a concert choir setting. And I remember, I think it was summer of my junior year of high school, I had the honor of doing New Jersey All-State Choir,
Oh,
and I'm pretty sure John did it in Washington as well.
Yeah.
And that was a different experience. Like that, I still remember that to this day, even though it's been 3-4 years now. And basically, there were like 300 people, 300 of the most talented musicians in the state, and we had 3 days to learn 7 pieces of music and perform it in front of a very prestigious audience in Atlantic City. And we did it. And I never before have I gotten so close to so many people in such a short amount of time.
Right.
And it definitely changed my perspective on how music can be used to share experiences. Because at that point, I was like, music is fun. I like doing music. It's a fun thing to do. But I didn't realize that it could just connect people in such a profound way. And after that, no matter what experience I have with music, I make sure that I'm approaching it with that same mindset. Like, this isn't about me. This is about connecting with other people. Even if it's in a solo capacity, I'm like, I want to make sure that I'm using music to get the audience involved. I want to share the music. And in a lot of ways, I try not to get in the way of the music. I'll be the vessel of the music, but I don't want people to come to see me. I want people to be there to experience the music.
Totally. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned All-State Choir, because if I had actually been in my school's choir, I probably would have met John at Washington All-State Choir because we grew up in the same area somewhat. But it is funny that definitely music brings about connection, because the way that we actually met. So I was back home over, I think, spring break or maybe like some weekend. I was back home for the weekend, and I was meeting up with some friends from my old choir, and they were like, hey, me and some people from UW, the University of Washington, our a cappella group, we're going to go busking. Do you want to come with us? And so we all went. I had never met these people before, and we were all busking at the farmer's market near the university, and I met this guy. His name's Steven. And Steven hears that I go to MIT, and he was like, oh, do you know John McGeera? And I think I had followed you on Instagram, so I did know you vaguely. And I was like, yeah, I know John, sure. And that's how we actually connected, because singing, musicians, are bonds.
Steve and I were like in the same hotel room. So like, there were like 3 Stevens in the whole choir, and 2 of them were in that room, one would just be in that Steven. So it was a pretty fun time. We bonded quite well because we all had to share a bed.
Are you an honorary Steven now?
I might as well be.
But yeah, music definitely connects you like in a different way, and I think to like maybe any other activity I've done.
Yeah. There's a funny kind of duality there, because I mean, a lot of time in the real world, when you're not as part of a group, but when you're out doing gigs in the world, or like throwing together bands like this, whatever, a lot of the times you like straight up don't know people. I mean, you were talking about being in a group of like 100 people. Chances are you know 5 of them, and 95 are like complete strangers who you've never seen and will never see again. But at the same time, there's the perception, not just the perception, I think the truth that like music is like this really deep, innate sense of like expression and taking your innermost feelings out. And it's like you're doing that next to a whole bunch of strangers who are also doing that too, which is like wild. It's like, I don't know, you're all doing something like super intimate all together, which is odd. And I think it's kind of cool because like you get to all come to a space, and a whole bunch of people are watching you too, which is a whole other weird dynamic. But like a whole bunch of people get to watch like a gaggle of strangers pour their hearts out together who have never seen each other, and then they all just leave, and it's like this cool spectacle that we all like to listen to and incite so much. It's like this like wild, compounded, sequence of events, but it's cool how quickly doing that can bring you together.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think it's really weird when you compare it to sports. Because sports is another group activity that a lot of people will say like gets a lot of people very close. And I'd say, as someone who's done a couple of sports in my life, one of the biggest differences is that when it comes to sports, chemistry is like, there are going to be weeks where you're not going to be competing against each other. You will go there just so you can get a close bond, so you can work together, so you can work on that chemistry. And once you get that chemistry, it's very profound. But music, you don't even need like that building up section. It's like the music will do the chemistry for you, which is really interesting. Yeah.
There kind of is, but there isn't also. Because also when we all started playing together enough, I started being able to know what was going to happen, which is cool. Yeah. I'm like, I know you're setting up for a run. I can feel it coming, so I'm going to pull out. Or Garrett, you always have this look whenever you're about to do a thing. So I'm like, all right. No, but it's cool to also have that understanding, because you don't need it, but also having it's really cool when you know exactly what's coming.
It's definitely something that elevates it.
Yeah.
Totally. I've done a little bit of research within music in my time, and I wrote this paper once about music and accessibility, looking at how music can actually help people with different disabilities acquire the skills that they might be disabled in. One of the interesting things I learned through that is music is really, really instrumental in helping develop social skills because of this, essentially, the power of synchrony, the power of, everyone in the group is synchronizing to the same thing, working together, listening, and all of that. It can actually help people, just anyone, but especially people with, for example, social, I guess you could call it disabilities. It helps them build social skills, and I think really it helps everybody build all these different social skills and this deeper connection, which is really magical. All just because we're, playing to the same metronome.
Yeah. There's a theory that's where music came from, actually. Mm-hmm. It's why do we sing in the first place? And the idea is it's talking, but it's different. It's talking, but it's special. Because that's why it always, in so many cultures, discreetly, with no contact, it's been connected to things like religion and ceremonies and life and death and marriage and things. Because it's no, we talk all the time, but talking like that, where we're talking notes, is special talking. That's something different. Yeah. And that's called music, which is cool, because it totally is that thing where I don't know, humans, however, millions of years ago were no, this is a thing that makes me feel different. And there's that
and
powerful
maybe it makes
and
our
connects
group
us.
more connected and our group more, reliant on each other,
Exactly.
which is very valuable when you're relying on people to literally protect your life.
Oh, absolutely.
There's definitely something, I think, innate about human nature, because there are so many civilizations, so many societies, like you said, without contact with each other, that independently came up with music.
Right.
There is not a civilization that has not done music. And it's a way that no matter what, humans will end up coming back to, because there is something special about it.
It's been tied to language as well. There's huge connections between, music and language, music acquisition and language acquisition. It's been tied to physical stuff. There's been studies where people with Parkinson's, which will often have muscle spasms, when they listen to music, they're able to get up and move in a controlled manner. It taps into some essentially innate rhythm of their bodies and allows them to sort of overcome the muscle spasms and regain rhythmic control of their bodies. And then it's been tied to emotions, obviously. Music is extremely emotional in a lot of cases and for a lot of people. Sorry. I wrote a paper about it in high school, and I needed to get a chance to nerd out about this.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that music has been one of the most special parts, especially going to a STEM school. It's very, very easy to get caught up in the science and the math and technology, and having the outlet to make sure that you're making music making music that you enjoy with people you enjoy being around.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It has completely transformed my my academic experience for sure, and I think that one of the things that I really want to do with my MIT education is give back to just education in general. Like I'm a physicist, but one of the things I'm most passionate about is not the physics itself, but the teaching of physics.
Right.
Because I think physics is really fascinating. It's basically just another way of figuring out how the world around you works, and I don't think there's many things as profound as that. Just looking at the things around you and saying, that's how that works. And in theory, that sounds like it'd be really exciting to a lot of people, but I remember in high school, I could probably name on one hand how many people actually liked physics classes. Yet a lot of people who didn't like physics would still be like going to YouTube, watching YouTubers like Vsauce, Veritasium, things like that. And these YouTubers are talking about the exact same things that they're talking about in class, yet for some reason they're seeking out those different things rather than being engaged in the classroom. And I think with COVID specifically, it required a lot of technological remedies, I guess, to a lot of the problems that were caused by the quarantine and the pandemic. And although I think we can all agree that it was not a good time, I think there actually were some positives that could be taken out. And I think in general, just how media interacts with education. Because I think media, especially when you can involve things like music, that could transform the way education is. Because it's not a secret that people's attention spans are decreasing. It's not a secret that a lot of like the higher ed math and physics people are just disengaging from. And I think by using media, by using music, by using things that people will seek out on them by themselves as avenues for this education, especially within the physics realm, I think that you can get a lot of kids excited about learning in a way that hasn't been the case in a really long time.
I mean, even just as a minimal viable example, like the Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah.
It
Oh
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if y'all had to memorize. Did any of y'all have to memorize the
absolutely.
preamble?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you have to?
Yes.
So it's like
We
the whole
the people
yeah. Like the
in our-
preamble.
Yes.
And like you know, just straight up, just like don't even bother trying to memorize. Just go straight to the YouTube video of the
Yeah.
Schoolhouse Rock. Because there's something about that, and it works.
I'm pretty sure I've heard it maybe like twice in my life, the Schoolhouse Rock version. Because we did a Schoolhouse Rock play, I think, in elementary school.
Whoa.
I wasn't even in that song, and I still remember like, what is it? We the people, in order to perform a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility,
Yes.
provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and
Preserve the blessings of liberty.
Liberty for ourselves and
And
our posterity.
prosperity.
And it's wild because
Yeah.
that, speaking of random people, that was just like 5 random jazz session musicians who like this random studio executive was like, hear me out.
Yeah.
Like,
the best
we
idea
need-
start with somebody saying, "Hear me out."
it was like we hire like some random New York studio jazz musicians and we just record a whole bunch of things to fill in these gaps we have in our like broadcasting. And it like totally works.
Yeah. And I think also just music is tied to memory in a way that normal language isn't. Because language, it's usually, okay, you have like 2 things. You can either look at the words or you can hear the words. But with music, there's the other facet of like what are the chords going on, what's the timbre, what's the texture, things like that. There are other things for your brain to catch onto besides just the texture, just the words. So like, okay, maybe I'm listening, or maybe I need to remember the preamble. I might not remember the words, but I remember the chords from that Schoolhouse Rock. And then the chords will kind of get the words there eventually.
Right.
It'll activate the same pathways in my brain. So I think music could be a really effective learning tool, especially when it comes to memorization.
Totally. I mean, I'm sure as vocalists, you guys have had the experience where you know that you know a song, but you have to start from the beginning to be able to remember what the lyrics are in the middle. You just have to do it in order. I feel like it's proof that it's not about, just memorizing the words and then separately memorizing the music. It's completely tied together.
Kind of like how if you ask someone what's the 17th letter in the alphabet, they might just sing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, this count until they're like, oh wait, that's
Cute.
yes. I
Would
remember
any of us
our.
be able to remember the alphabet in order without the alphabet song?
One dude asked me to do it backwards for a dime when I was like 5,
CXWPTSIQPONMLKJ
which I also memorized from a song that I had. Which also coincidentally was memorized via a song.
Yes. Music, it's so powerful, especially in education. I think that, especially with educational videos and educational music videos, we're totally seeing a whole new generation of like people who are able to learn these weird concepts because some random YouTuber made a YouTube video about it and put it to some dumb song. I mean, like, if you ask I bet you could pull any 7-year-old kid off the street and ask them, like, one of those Minecraft parodies, and they would be able to sing it.
Probably, actually more like our age now, because those came out when we were 7.
Also, speaking of Minecraft, which is another thing, because I'm actually doing a lot of research when
Right.
it comes to like the use of media within education. Minecraft, there are like 6-7-year-olds who know advanced concepts in engineering because of the redstone blocks in Minecraft.
Oh, yeah.
Games are actually teaching them things that are relevant within a professional field. And I think one of the cool things about games when it comes to education is that it provides a incentive outside of just I'm learning. Because learning is cool, but it's also very ambiguous. It's sometimes intangible. Like, how do you define I'm learning? How do you have how do you ensure that the idea of you learning is enough to motivate you?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to games, like, yes, you're learning, but maybe you don't realize you're learning. You're like, I want to beat the bad guy. I want to get these resources, things like that. And on the way, you're learning, but that might not be, it's now, I guess, entangling your motivation to beat the game with your motivation to learn. And then you might start off with motivation, like, I want to beat the bad guy. But I was like, wait, when I'm getting to the bad guy, I'm actually learning some really cool stuff. Maybe I should do this a little bit more.
Right.
So I think that games are another really cool way that media can be used to enforce education, especially in a world where one of the most popular forms of entertainment is like streaming and like YouTube watching video games, things like that. Like, I think Fortnite or something like that, like every day there's like 900,000 people watching people play Fortnite. And
Like mind-blowing.
if we can get 900,000 people on their own time to watch people play games or play games themselves, that leads them towards education-based kind of thing. That's a lot more people than we have now, probably. Yeah.
Definitely. How do you think music and education or music and STEM tie together?
Music and stuff. I guess just a random thing that came to my head is just like whenever I study, just like listening to music, like helps like ingrain specific like concepts I learn with like the specific music I'm listening to. So I guess like sometimes like in like I'm just doing like a piece. I guess like more in high school, like when I'd be listening to music when I'm like either studying like for a test or something, and then whenever I like listen to the music, like I can like sort of associate different like topics with like the song that I'm listening to. I guess. So like it can also work as like sort of like a study tool, just like help you remember things as well. That's something that I've just been sometimes using when I'm just studying for exams or for just doing P-sets in general and stuff like that. But
Yeah, and then you hum the song in your head while you're taking the test, like trying to remember.
yeah,
What's your music of choice when
I guess it's very broad because I sometimes have problems. Like I know a lot of people have like problems listening to like lyrical music when they're studying because it kind of distracts them. But I guess for me it's very broad because I guess there's just a list off the top of it, like EDM, classical, pop, some rap. I guess like it's a very wide like variety of like songs I listen to when I study.
Just like per subject or just like.
It's just in general. I think I don't think it's really per subject because I just have a big in Spotify I have like a big like song playlist of like every single song I've ever liked. I just like hit that and shuffle and just play every single song there essentially.
Oh.
And I have like specific playlists for classical music or for rap and like for pop that kind of stuff. But I don't know. Sometimes I just go like playlist, click shuffle and just press play and then just listen to everything from like 2017, 2018, everything. But yeah, that's just I don't know. That's just what I do.
It's nice.
Do you guys have preferred study music?
Mine is very specifically Klinikov's First Symphony.
Bruh.
It is.
God.
If I listen to music while studying, it will be that exact piece. And I got exposed to actually symphony orchestra last spring, That was our first concert in the spring, right?
Yeah, first.
Yes. And that was, at that point, I had taken over as the principal timpanist for the group. And I think that that was the most fun playing timpani I ever had, because I don't know, I think the composer just really wanted the timpanist to have a ball. Like, I think every single end of a section was just the timpanist getting to go to town, they get to roll, they just like bum 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 bum, and I was like, this is so much fun just to play. And then after I finished playing, I was like, I just kind of want to listen to everything else going around it, because I was kind of focused. Sometimes I was focused on what I was doing, and then listen to this. I'm like, wait, this is just like a genuinely masterful piece, and it just captures a lot of emotions. It's like, it's triumphant, it's sad, it's brooding, it's silly. It just goes through seamlessly through a whole range of emotions without saying a single word. And I think there's something really profound about that, and it does so in a way that it's not announcing that it's doing it. It's very subtle. And it allows me to work because, like, I can get these emotions, I'm making these subconscious connections, but it's not really requiring too much brain power. It's kind of speaking to me on a very intimate, very almost primal level that I really appreciate. And if you have never heard of Kalinikov, you should definitely. He's
good.
He's good. Well, he was good. Unfortunately, he passed away really early. He passed away, like, I think it was 35. So we got robbed of possibly another 60 years of his music. And I think that is... mankind missed out on that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it like last night you sent me like a video?
Oh, I last night I just sent it to John randomly because I was studying for physics, and I was like, you know what? I just wanted to share this. I just want to make sure. Yes. I just want to make sure people are actually listening to it.
Despite having also played it for like 2 months straight.
Yes.
I'd say probably my go-to music to listen to is like whatever I'm learning at the time or trying to make a cover of. So usually like throughout the semester, it's like either like any of the music groups I'm part of, I'm like subconsciously like, listening to the music that we have to perform. So for like corollaries, it's like usually like the 7 or 8 songs we're learning. And then on top of that with like Misuse of Institute Property is also like the 7 songs we're learning at the time.
You make a lot of your own music too, right?
Yeah, I like to do covers of songs. Right now, I'm working on Don't Lose Sight by Lawrence. Yeah. I started last semester where I do a cover of like one song that kind of summarizes how the semester went for me. So last semester I did Singing in the Rain by Simple Plan, because like the semester was like kind of like downhill after downhill, but I was like, I got this, I should keep going. And then really resembled that. And then kind of like this semester has a similar feel. It's just that it's like inconvenience after inconvenience. One of which being fractured jaw that I had a bit ago from Taekwondo. But I kept like pushing through it and don't lose sight, because there's more to come, such as being part of like a great group as this.
Right. Is your jaw doing okay?
Yeah, it's a little numb, but like for the most part it's alright.
Nice.
How did you break your jaw?
Yeah, how did you break your jaw?
Sparring practice, Taekwondo. Shout out MIT Sport Taekwondo team. Yeah, a very fun team.
Placed top 3 at nationals. Right. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You should put Taekwondo more.
I do. I'm also a tour guide. I talk about the corollaries in Taekwondo team a lot because they're things I like being part of.
I just did my first ever. I'm now one of the Simmons tour guides, and I just gave a tour of Simmons a weekend ago, which was very fun. And I just talked all about the Simmons architecture, which is a private obsession of mine. But yeah, it's so fun to be able to incorporate, your interests into MIT life. I feel like people might think that very technical school, very serious, but people like to have fun, and I think more people than you might realize are very, very musical, actually.
Yeah, I things like pretty much like my entire like next house friend group, like we all did music like growing up. And you're kind of like, oh yeah, I did music, and you probably like have a handful of kids like that in your high school, and then you're like, wow, that's like my neighbor right there, and then his neighbor as well.
Yeah, everyone's musical, which is really fun, especially on karaoke night.
And I think I think the chamber chorus director said at some point that 75% of people at MIT know how to read Western music notation, which
Oh,
is
wow.
crazy.
Yeah.
At a STEM school,
Mhm.
and 3/4 of the people that you walk past know how to read music. That's I know some people at music schools who don't know how to read music. So it's crazy how it's almost, you can make an argument that there's a correlation between music and like success at an academic level, because everyone here is super smart, super talented, yet they all seem to be very active in music as well. And sometimes it's frustrating because there's sometimes I want to go to like the practice room in building 4, and there are 8 different practice rooms with 8 different grand pianos, and somehow every time I go there,
Always
always full.
Always.
There is so many people do music here that there's honestly not enough space and not enough materials for everyone to do all the music they want at any given time, which is inconvenient for sure, but it's also fascinating, and I think overall it's a really good thing.
Mhm. Good problem to have.
Yeah.
Everyone
Yeah.
is certainly. Like, we have a theremin in Simmons.
Oh,
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
I'll have to pull up the Simmons.
Do you know how to play it?
Huh, do I know how? I have theoretically played it, but I don't know how to play it.
Ah.
I think some of the guys in our friend group were using it as a demonstration tool for certain aspects of their technique and their, I guess, reps per minute in certain things.
In the class that Matt and I have together in Active Music Systems,
Mhm.
we were working with kind of like sensors, and so we got a sensor from the Loose Music Library, and we were able to like make a theremin with that.
It's awesome. Theremins are so cool. I think modern, like just music technology in general, I'm very obsessed with. I made a little music education tool in high school, so I've been a little bit in that world, but I'm very excited. The other thing is that the fact that we have such robust music technology like classes and programs here at MIT, very, very cool. I mean, you guys mentioned the interactive music systems class, but it's so fun. Very exciting.
Yeah. I think there's just really interesting things that people are doing in music. Like, I think just the existence of the video game orchestra is
Oh
just
my goodness.
so cool
Yes.
to me.
The video game and the laptop orchestra,
Mhm.
which are 2 separate, amazingly cool things. For a little context, the laptop orchestra, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know too well, but the laptop orchestra essentially will like synthesize and create their own sort of electronic music projects. Essentially, they'll be like live coding different sounds and moving around different wires and programming different synthesizers live during the performance to create these amazing musical pieces. And then the video game orchestra plays video game music. Yeah?
Yeah.
Both of which are very cool, very nerdy, but
Mhm.
very, very MIT.
I think have you watched the Mario movie?
I have not yet. I haven't gotten a chance to quite yet.
Got it. Okay. Basically, the end credits, there's basically this really cool compilation of a bunch of very classic, like 8-bit Mario songs, stuff like that are just completely aggrandized to like a 80-person orchestra. And it's really fascinating because it's like, I could basically feel how much fun the instrumentalists were having while sitting down in a chair with popcorn. Because it's like, I don't know, I think it's a really cool way to just mix 2 different passions and 2 things that you would do in your free time for fun. Now you get to do some of them together. So like in another universe, if I had time, I definitely would consider being part of the video game orchestra for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, if we had time, you know? But I think that really just connects to, I mean, we've been talking about, you know, emotion and connection and music and all the different things that music can do, but really one of the best things that music can do is you can feel the joy of the musicians, and then the musicians can feel the joy of each other and the audience, and it's just this big, happy, very, like, connecting, bonding human experience. And I definitely felt a lot of joy watching you guys perform at Springfest. You guys were amazing. And I am definitely feeling a lot of joy that we had this conversation. So, on that note, thank you so much for listening, and this has been On the Dome. feel like we should sing something. Or like.
What song? What,
I do not say.